Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create an item pickup and inventory system like this in Unreal Engine 5. But before we start, please like this video and subscribe my channel for more Unreal Engine tutorials. Thank you. First I open this inventory folder and here I right click and from user interface section I create a new widget blueprint. And I name it inventory-widget. Alright, now I open up this widget and here first I search for a canvas panel. I drag and drop it here and now I search for overlay and I place this overlay here. I place it right here and I scale it up like this, and I also anchor it to bottom left corner. Now here I search for border. I drag and drop it on my overlay and here I turn off this full horizontally and fill vertically. Now here I search for image and I drop it on my border, and here in bright section I set a color for tint. For example, here I set a gray color for it like this and click OK, and I also can add a value to my border. For example, here I select 3 and here as you can see I have this border, and if I set it again to 0 this border will be removed. Now I set it to 3. Now here I search for wrap box and I drop it on my overlay. Now I select it and set this is variable to true. Alright, now I compile and close this inventory widget. Now again inside my inventory folder I right click and from user interface section I create another widget blueprint and I name it item slot dash widget. Now I open it up and here first I add a size box, drag and drop it on here, and I set this from fill screen to desired on screen, and here I click on this width override and height override and I set them both to 100. Okay, now I search for button. Here I add a button and drag and drop it on this size box, and now I select my button and set pressed padding to 0, and I also set normal padding to 0. Alright, now here I search for an overlay, drag and drop it here. Now I click on this fill horizontally and also fill vertically, and now I add an image which is going to be used for my item image to be displayed in my inventory like a thumbnail, and I also select my image and set this fill horizontally and fill vertically, Finally, I add a text, and this text is going to be used for showing the number of that specific item which is held inside my inventory, and I drag and drop it on my overlay again. And for my text, I set this button align vertically, and I set the color of my text to black. And I also for now I set default value of this text to a number, for example 5, and as you can see now it is placed right here. Now I compile and close this item slot widget. Now I'm going to create a component for my inventory system. So here I open this third person folder, and inside this blueprint folder I right click and click on this blueprint class, and here I create a new actor component and I name it inventory dash component. Now I'm going to add this component to my character blueprint. So here I open my character blueprint, which in this case is BP underscore third person character, and here I hit this add icon and search for my inventory component, and now this component is added to my character blueprint. Now I compile and close my character blueprint. Now I'm going to create a structure for my item. So here I open this item folder, and here I right click, and from blueprint section I select this structure and I name it item dash structure. Now I open it up, and as you can see by default I have a variable in type of boolean, and I change the name to name, and I set this variable type to text. And now I create another variable and I name it can stack. And this variable should be in type of boolean, and it shows that the item is stackable or not, means I can hold more than one number of that item in my inventory or not. And now I create another variable and I name it quantity, and this one should be in type of integer, which is actually the number of the item that I'm holding in my inventory. And I also create another variable and I name it display image, and this one should be in type of texture 2D object reference, and it is actually the image of my item. And I also add another item and I name it model, and this one should be in type of a static mesh object reference, which is actually the 3D model of my item. Now I save and close this structure, and here inside this item folder I have prepared 3 different item models. First one is this apple, and I also have this apple image and also this axe item, which is this one, and also a banana item. This is image of my banana, and also I have this banana model. Alright, now I go back to my item folder, and here I right click and create a new variable in type of actor, and I name it item underscore BP. Now I open it up, and here first I add a static mesh, and here I add a new variable and I name it item, and this variable type should be my structure. Here I search for my item dash structure. Alright, and now I select this variable, and here I set this instance editable to true, and I also expose on span to true. So now I can edit this blueprint as an instance. Now I compile and close this blueprint. Now I can drag and drop my item into the scene, and here I'm going to create, for example, an Apple item for this by this blueprint. So here I search for item, and here I set the name to Apple, and I set can stack to true because I want my character to be able to hold more than one apple in only one inventory slot, and this item is stackable. Now I set quantity to 1, and for display image I search for this apple image, and for model here I right click and search for, but I think I have a problem here, and this apple is in a skeletal mesh type. And now I should convert this apple skeletal mesh to a static mesh. So I just simply drag and drop it into my scene, and here in actor tab I select this option, convert apple UVW to a static mesh, and here I should select a folder to this for this static mesh to be saved. So here I select this Apple folder, and now as you can see I have this Apple static mesh, so I rename it to Apple dash mesh, and I remove this one, and again I select my item blueprint, and here I add my Apple mesh. But now as you can see this item doesn't show my mesh, my static mesh. So here I go back to my item blueprint, and inside this construction script, first here I drag and drop my static mesh, and I also drag and drop my item structure, and here I drag a node from this structure and select brick item structure, and here I drag a node from this static mesh and search for set a static mesh, and I just simply connect this model, which is my static mesh, to here. Now I compile and close, and as you can see here this static mesh is shown by this item blueprint. Now I create a duplicate of this item blueprint with Ctrl and D. I create 2 more duplicates, and I repeat same process for creating other items. For example, here I going to create my banana, so I set name to banana, and for this one again this can stack should be true, and quantity I set this quantity to 1, and here I search for my banana image, and for mesh I search for my banana static mesh, which is actually this one. I rename it to banana mesh and set it here. Alright, but this size is too small. The size is too small, so here I select it and I scale it up to, for example, 10, and I also scale down this apple to 0.2 or maybe 0.5. Alright, and now I create my axe item. I repeat the same process for this axe item. I set name to axe and I set this can stack to false because I want my character to be able to hold only one axe, and also quantity should be 1. And I set display, I select this display image, this axe image, and for model here I select my axe model, which is this one. Alright, and I also scale it down to 0.5. Okay, now I run the game, and as you can see here I have this apple and banana and axe item. Now I go back and open this third person folder, and inside this blueprint folder I open my inventory component. And here in event begin play I drag a node and search for create widget. And here I select my inventory widget in the inventory dash widget, and I also promote it to a variable and I name it inventory widget ref. So here I have a reference to my inventory widget, and now here I'm going to add a key. I simply search for key input, this one. I'm not gonna waste the time for creating input. I just simply import this queue input inside this blueprint, and here I drag and drop this item, this widget reference, and here I drag a node and search for is visible, and here I drag and add a branch node and connect it to here. And now if this widget is not visible, which means that this output is false, I'm going to show this inventory widget. So simply here I drag a node and search for add to viewport and connect it to false section, and for true section here I drag a node and search for remove from parent and connect it to true section. Alright, now I compile and run the game, and as you can see now if I press Q, this inventory will be shown, and if I press this Q again it will be removed from a screen. Now I open my inventory component, and here I create a new variable and I name it item. And for variable type I select my item item structure, and here in this section variable type I set this variable to array, And here I drag and drop this variable here, and now I drag a node and search for resize. And for example, here I set size of 5 for this array, which means that my inventory can hold up to 5 slots. Now I close this component, and here I open this inventory folder, and now I open my item slot widget. Now I go to this graph section, and here I create a new variable and I name it item. And for variable type, again I search for my item structure, item dash structure. Okay, now I compile and open up this designer section, and here as you can see I have this image and this text, and I'm going to make sure for both of them this is variable is true. For image this one is true, and I'll also set this true for my text, and I name this text block, for example, item quantity, and for this image I set the name to item image. Now I go back to this graph section, and here in event pre-construct, first I drag and drop this item variable, and here I drag and drop my item image. First I place them here, I find free space. Now I drag and drop my item image, and from here I drag a node and search for set brush from texture. Set brush from texture. I connect it here, and now I drag a node from this item variable and select brick item structure, and now I connect this display image to here. Now I drag and drop my item quantity variable here, and now I drag a node and search for set text. This node exactly and connect it to here, and now I'm going to connect this quantity, which is an integer, to here. Okay, and finally here I add a branch node, and from here this quantity item I drag a node and add a greater node, and I set this to 1 and connect it here. And now I get my item quantity variable again and drop it here. Now I drag a node and search for set visibility, and if the number of item is greater than 1, which means this is true, this condition is true, I want this variable to be visible. But if this is not greater than 1, I want it to be hidden. So here I copy this node and connect it to here, and for this one I set it to hidden. Now I close this item slot widget, and here I open my inventory widget, and here as you can see I have this wrap box. Now I'm going to connect this wrap box to my overlay. I drag and drop it on my overlay, and here I set this field horizontally and vertically. Alright, now I go to graph section, and here I create a new function and I name it load inventory. And for this function I'm going to create a new input and I name it inventory. Alright, and this input type should be my inventory component. I select my inventory dash component object reference. Alright, now here I drag and drop my wrap box variable here, and here I drag a node and search for clear children, and I connect it here. And from this inventory I drag a node and search for my item variable, which is in type of my item structure. And now from here I drag a node and search for each loop, and I connect this item to array input. And now here I drag a node from loop body and search for create widget. And now I compile and minimize this widget, and now I open my item slot widget. And as you can see here in graph section inside my item slot widget, I have this item variable which is in type of item structure, and now I'm going to set instance editable and expose on spawn to true. Okay, now I compile and I go back to my inventory widget, and here I select my item slot widget. Alright, and I connect this array element to here, and again I drag and drop my wrap box variable here, and here I drag a node and search for add child to wrap box. And I connect content to here and this execution pin to here. Now I compiled and close these and minimize these widgets, and now I open my component, my inventory component, which is I think here inside my third person folder. I open this component, and as you can see here I have 5 inventory slots, and now I drag and drop my inventory widget reference variable here, and from this variable I call my load inventory function, and here I drag a node and search for self, get a reference to self. Alright, now I compile and close all of the windows, and now I run the game, and if now I press Q, as you can see this widget of my inventory is shown with 5 different slots. And now I open my inventory folder, and here I open my item slot widget, and here I select this button, and as you can see here is padding is set to 0, and now I increase it to 5. Now I compile and run the game again, And here if I press Q, as you can see, I have more empty space between my slots in my inventory widget. And for example, if I open my inventory component from here, this component, and increase this array index to, for example, 12. Now compile, and as you can see, now I have 12 slots in my inventory. Alright, now I open my inventory component, and here I find some free space, and now I right click and import E key button. I search for E key, and here I import this E button input, and here I drag a node and search for a sphere trace by channel. Now I need a location for a start and end, so here I right click and search for get player character, and from here I get actor location, and now I drag a node and add a subtract node and subtract it by 65 on Z axis, and I connect this output to both start and end. And here I set radius to 80, and I set draw debug type to for duration. And now if I compile and run the game by pressing E, as you can see, I have this sphere trace in this location that you see in the video. Now I go back to inventory component, and here from this out hit result I drag a node and click on this brick hit result, and here from this hit actor I drag a node and cast to my item blueprint. It's cast to item underscore BP, which is a class of my item. Alright, and now here I drag a node and search for each loop, and here I drag and drop my item variable here, which is in type of my item structure, and connect it to this array input. Now here from this array element I drag a node and search for, I can click on this brick item structure, and also from this item blueprint I drag a node and get my item variable, which again is in type of item structure, and here I drag a node and click on brick item structure. Now I drag a node from here, name variable, and I search for this equal exactly text, which has 3 equal symbols, and connect them both together. And here again I drag a node and search for and boolean variable, and now I connect this stackable boolean to here. Now I drag a node from this quantity and add node and add it to this quantity of item, and now I'm going to check the total value of this quantity, which is inside the item, and the quantity which is held by character are less or equal to 100, and this is the maximum number of items that can be stacked inside inventory. And here I click on this icon and add another pin and connect it to here. Now I drag a node from here and add a branch node and connect it to loop body. Now here I drag and drop my item variable, and here I drag a node and search for set array element. And now here connect this index to array index of this loop, and I drag a node from this item and search for make item structure. Now I make some free space here and I connect this true section to here. And now from this cast to item blueprint, I drag a node and search for get item. And here I drag a node and search for brick item structure, and now I connect name to name here. I can stack to this one, display image, and also model variable, all of them except quantity. And now I connect this output from here to here. And now here I drag and drop my inventory widget reference, and from here I call my load inventory function and connect it to here. And from here I search for get a reference to self. And now from this false part of branch, I drag a node and add another branch node here. And now here I'm going to check this quantity is equal to 0 and connect this condition to this second branch. And if the quantity of this slot is 0, means that this slot is empty. And now from the true part of this branch, I drag a node and search for add array. I'm sorry, I drag a node and search for set array element. And now I drag and drop my item variable here and connect it to this target array input. And I also connect this index to array index of this loop. And from this cast to item blueprint, again I drag a node here and search for get item and connect it to here. And I finally connect this set array element to this. I connect this set array element to this load inventory to reload my inventory again. And finally I drag a node from this item reference, and here I search for destroy actor node and connect it to here. Alright, I know this function is very complicated and too messy, but don't worry at all. I share this with a link inside comment sections of this video. Before running the game, I decided to make some changes in my sphere trace by channel. Here, instead of subtracting this location by 65, I set it to 10, so my sphere, as you can see, will be spawned in a higher position. And here if I get close to this X item, and as you can see here, I picked up this X, and now I open my inventory, and as you can see, this X is shown inside my inventory. And now I pick up this banana, and here also this banana is shown. And now if I set the quantity of this banana to a number higher than 1, for example 10, and now I run the game, I pick this banana again, and here as you can see, the number of banana item is shown inside my inventory. And for fixing the errors that are shown after stopping the game, you can here drag a node from this blueprint cast, this item blueprint cast. Here you can drag a node and search for an is valid node, this macro, and now I place it after this loop, and I connect this loop body first to here, and this is valid execution to this branch. Alright, now I compile and run the game again, and here I pick both items, and if I stop the game, there is no error. Now I'm going to make my character able to drop items. So first, here I open inventory folder, and I open my item slot widget, and now I select my button, and I make sure that this is variable is true, and I change the name of this button to item button, and here I scroll down and click on this unclicked event. Now from here, from this event, I drag a node and search for a spawn actor from class, and here I select my item blueprint. Alright, and now here I drag and drop my item, and I connect it to here, and now I need a location for this item to be spawned. So here I right click and search for get player character, and this index should be 0, and here I drag a node and search for get actor transform, and connect it here. Now I create a new variable and I name it index, and set this variable type to integer, and I also set instance editable and expose on spawn to true. Now I create another variable and I name it inventory, and for variable type I search for my inventory component, inventory dash component object reference, I'm sorry, inventory component object reference. Alright, and again I set instance editable and expose on spawn to true. Now I compile this widget and close it, and now I open my I'm sorry, now I open my inventory widget, and here in graph section I open my load inventory function. And here first I right click on this node and refresh this node here, and I connect this array index to this index, and also I connect this inventory to here. Now I compile and close this inventory widget, and again I open my item slot widget. Now I go to graph section, and here I drag and drop this inventory component here, and here I drag a node and search for item variable. And now from here I drag a node and search for set array element, and I connect it to here. And I also drag and drop my index variable here and connect it to here, to this index input. And now from here I drag a node and click on this one, make item structure, and I leave all of them to blank. And now from this inventory variable I drag a node and search for get inventory widget reference, and from here I call my load inventory function and connect it to here. Alright, now I compile and close this widget blueprint. Now I open my third person blueprint folder, and here I open my inventory component, and inside event graph here I right click here and search for get player controller, and from here I drag a node and search for show mouse cursor. Set show mouse cursor, and again from here I drag a node and search for set input mode game and UI. Game and UI. Alright, and I connect it here and connect it to this false part, and I also connect this to here, and I get a copy of these two nodes and paste them here, and here this should be set to true, and for false part, for true part of this branch I connect it to here and here. And I also here drag a node and search for set input mode game only. Mode game only. Alright, and I connect it to here and here. Now I can use mouse cursor when my inventory widget is shown. Okay, now I compile and run the game, and as you can see here, when I press Q and this inventory is shown, I also can use mouse, and if I disable this inventory, the mouse cursor will be gone. Okay, now for example here I pick up this banana and I also this axe. Now I press Q, as you can see I can see them both in my inventory, and now if I click on this axe item, okay, it will be spawned here. Alright, here is a problem with dropping item. I just open my item slot widget here inside graph section. Here in this section I have this spawn actor item blueprint. Here I disconnect this transform, and here I right click and click on split strike pin, and I also do the same for here. I connect location to location and rotation to rotation. And actually the problem of spawning item dropping and respawning the items was related to this transform scale. So here I set it to 0.2, and here I compile again, and for example here I pick up this axe, and here I can see it in my inventory, and I click it on it here. As you can see, it is dropped here, and I can again pick it up, and as you can see it is in my inventory again. Alright, if this tutorial was useful for you, please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.